In today's webinar, I would like to talk to you about exceeding your production, cost and safety targets in mining within 6 months using the theory of constraints. I will propose a solution that has been very successful in dealing with these, but also has application to many of the other seemingly intractable problems that miners are struggling with. So my name is Hendrik Lawrence. I'm Stratflow's owner. I trained as a physicist and have advanced qualifications in theory of constraints, MBA, and experience in applying complexity science. At Stratflow, we help our clients look for the inherent simplicity in complicated and pressured environments, and then help them to deliver breakthrough results by focusing their effort on the few critical leverage points that exist in every organization. In today's talk, I'm going to highlight the lack of success miners have had in improving productivity, in changing culture, and engaging employees, as well as in getting the most out of new technology. I intend to show that the lack of success is due to deeply held best practice paradigms, and then show how we at Stratflow have overcome these paradigms over the last 20 years. Now, this graph shown here is from McKinsey's, and it shows worldwide mining productivity normalized to 100 in 2004. This takes into account factors such as declining grades, deeper mines, to give a fair comparison. You can see a drop of nearly 60%. Incidentally, from the late 90s, ERP systems in mining became widespread, with dramatic reduction in admin personnel count. With so much more information to make good decisions with, the fact that productivity has paradoxically declined should surprise everyone. At the same time, employee engagement has fallen off a cliff. Something is clearly wrong, and not just a little. In spite of numerous targeted initiatives across industries, we seem not to be able to turn this around. What makes it even more interesting is that in mining, frontline leaders score the worst on engagement. Managers, GMs, execs, and at the operator and trades level have a much better score. Management has launched numerous people and culture initiatives aimed at improving trust and cooperation with almost no impact. In the same timescale as the productivity graph that we just saw, deaths have decreased, but they're now refusing to reduce further. We all know the pressure on managers that they are under from society and legislation to prevent injury and deaths. Safety too, which started off in aviation and has shown great promise in mining, holds that safety improves only when the flow of work becomes easier. In effect, the system itself is safe or not, and a pressurized system is a system that is fairly unsafe. Now, at the same time, 25% of technology projects fail, 20 to 25% don't show return on investment, and 50% need massive rework. The official Tier 1 consultant explanation is that managers are responsible. They did not pay sufficient attention, or indirectly, the cultural resistance was just too high. Now, is this fair? Are managers simply not trying hard enough or not skilled enough? We know mining managers are already overloaded, so doing more of what's just been done before, but better, is unlikely to improve the situation. And yet, I want to show you what Stratflow has achieved over the last 20 years with miners in Africa, South America, and Asia, with what we call the productivity platform. These are some of our best results, but typically we aim for 20% plus increase in output using the same resources. The throughput of this extra production goes straight onto the bottom line with dramatic financial implications and also much better safety performance and much better employee engagement. So let's say you believe the numbers that I've just showed you. Why is there so much wasted capacity and capability in mining? We believe it is due to a deep-seated set of beliefs that constrain and prevents improvement. In 2014, Ernst & Young interviewed 60 top mining executives in regards to increasing productivity and some other issues. The report was titled, "Productivity in Mining, Now Comes the Hard Part." And these were the recommendations. Anybody that want to differ from these recommendations? They seem pretty reasonable. In the rest of the talk, I want to show you that the flaws inherent in these recommendations are actually at the root of our problems, and that is what is preventing improvement. Now, this graph shows the utility to society of new paradigms as they develop over time. Each age builds on the best of what came before until it hits a bubble. In the industrial age, the ideas of companies such as Ford and General Motors set the stage for incredible economic and productivity growth. The hierarchical organizations and the processes they developed are very well suited to the need for efficiency and control, without which no organization can survive. They perfected the allocation of work to departments with clear reporting relationships and accountability, and using planning, budgeting, job specifications, and performance management systems. Consequence of this was that decision-making responsibility moved from the front line to management. It solved many of the problems these organizations had, but managers still had difficulty in getting critical information for good decision-making in time. And the information age solved that. It made computing power and interconnectivity cheap, and it allowed us to hard code our mental models into organizational processes and behavior. We believe that our organizations are now caught in a second bubble, a place where the old methods are struggling to deal with the aspirations of society and of workers, and where old methods are delivering diminished results. There are new methods available now, but it's very difficult to supplant the tried and tested ideas that help senior managers rise through the ranks. So let us assume you're a production manager. You're responsible for 6 production departments, and they work in series to deliver specific required output. I come to you and I say, I want you to size the 6 production departments that you control such that they run at maximum efficiency, and they must deliver on average 10 units per hour. How would you size and resource these departments? Well, most people would agree that a chain of average 10, 10, 10 capacity on each unit would deliver 10 overall. They are happy because all the departments will produce on average 10 per hour for 100% efficiency. We can't do better than that, surely. But we have a problem. Industrial processes are variable. On average, 10 means some 12s and some zeros. That gives us 10 on average. But industrial processes are not normally distributed. Which then brings us to scientific fact number 2. We have to deal with the fact that industrial processes in the chain are also interdependent. So if B goes down, the upstream departments have to stop, and the downstream departments starve. And if F goes down, it blocks E from producing more, which blocks D, and so on. So if we look at 2 resources and their combined effect, we see that as the green produces less than the blue, blue has to stop. When blue produces less than the green's instantaneous capacity, green is starved and can only produce what blue is handing over. So the combined output of these resources is the least of the instantaneous production of both, the red line. So let's continue with the 2 resources and now add 4 more in series. All the other resources have non-normal production distribution. Our instantaneous output is again the lowest output of any resource at any time. And to make it really interesting, sometimes we win the lottery and by accident we exceed our production record. But it was not because we were so good, we just won the lottery. The manager the next day will say, "See, you always complain. You don't have enough of this, you don't have enough of that. But see, you can do it. And then tomorrow, when we look at the entire chain, we see that the output is 5, not 10. Now imagine that you're in charge of production. Next morning you arrive at work and you're confronted by an hourly output of 5 for night shift. Naturally, you will call in your leaders and ask, where's my production? What do you think they will say? The manager in charge of this chain has many, many problems. Who does he hold responsible for the shortfall? Who does he reward for good performance? Moreover, where is the bottleneck he should focus his attention on? What will the interdepartmental relationships and the willingness to collaborate be like? What is the likelihood that decision-making will be devolved towards the lower levels of the organization? What will be the attitude towards trying innovative new ideas? What will employee engagement and willingness to contribute new ideas be like? How much time will this manager have to focus on the future and improvement versus managing day-to-day conflicts? Can you imagine what will happen if we digitize all of this information? We'll have a total overload of data without any useful information. And this is what the situation looks like to management and their management. We sometimes exceed our budget, but on average, the rate falls well short. In cases where the gap is greater than 25%, we know from experience that we are dealing with a balanced capacity moving bottleneck situation that we just discussed. Now, the industrial age success was built on managerial genius and holding employees accountable. And you can imagine the pressure on the manager in the previous slide to measure and hold his employees accountable. And with more data, it's possible to introduce more KPIs. Boston Consulting Group partner Ive Moreau says, in effect, these KPIs at the operational level are set as if the parts of the business operate in isolation and can be measured separately. And we saw just that in our 6th production unit example. People put their energy into what can be measured at the expense of cooperation. As performance deteriorates, we add more structures, processes, systems, and that is what's killing productivity and what makes people suffer at work. People stop cooperating and trust disappears. So as you can imagine, the ERP system has given the accountants a powerful tool for monitoring what happens in the operations and indirectly, although sometimes directly, the ability to control what happens. I see many cases where operations management is prevented from hiring people, purchasing equipment or materials purely because it's not in the budget. In fact, the ERP system has built-in checks and balances which have to be overridden by a senior manager or the accountant before it will allow deviation from the budget. The accountants, through the ERP system, have effectively captured large operations. And that's another reason why engagement suffers and productivity does not improve. And, by the way, agility is totally lost in this situation. And after all of that pain, we are finally ready to propose a solution. If we want to solve the productivity, engagement, technology, and safety problems, we have to address the issues of culture and management failure, which we've highlighted in the beginning. The solution should support this by creating an effective change platform from where bottom-up initiatives can launch at low risk. It should deliver stability so that they can free up the management and employee attention, which again is needed to deal in an agile fashion with a changing environment. And to deliver this stability, it should simplify processes and guide employees to critical areas which do require focus. The traditional processes and hierarchy are very well suited to the need for efficiency and control, without which no organization can survive. It functions by allocating work to departments with clear reporting relationships and accountability. And it uses planning, budgeting, job specifications, and performance management systems. This system is efficient, but is not suitable to handle interdependency and variability or rapid change. At StratFlow, we developed a dual operating system that we call the productivity platform that delivers this missing functionality without detracting from the benefits of traditional hierarchy. It fits into the current management system with minimal interference while reducing the overall workload substantially. This image shows the relationship between our hierarchical system and the agile network structure we require in support. Now remember the slide we showed before where the output is 5 and not the expected 10. A necessary part of the success of the dual operating system is that we have to make a distinction between bottlenecks and non-bottlenecks and manage them differently. We have to manage for system flow and not for departmental efficiency. By putting in buffers around the bottleneck department, we decouple it from the rest of the production chain. The bottleneck now produces substantially more than before and with significantly less variation. The rules for running the bottleneck is different to those for other departments. Upstream departments use the status of the feeding buffer as a priority system to work or not, and downstream it is the status of the space buffer. In this manner, we drastically simplify the management of the production process and we free up time and resources. We create what we call superflow in a spirit of calmness. We now know where we should focus our digitalization and our automation efforts. Effort around improving the running of the bottleneck is where we will get leveraged results quickly. The red resource is the bottleneck with 10 units flowing per hour, and the other resources? Well, they would range from 12 to 13 units average capacity. So we do have excess capacity here. We won't have 100% utilization, but we need this to quickly refill our buffers every time there's a disruption to the flow. And because of the extra flow we generate, the inefficiency does not matter. The overall production will increase much more than the increase in cost. So what happens to the output when the equipment inevitably starts to wear and the availability reduces? Well, in the balanced capacity chain, we have a mine closure at hand. With the productivity platform in red, we're not affected nearly as much. So how do we enable this fundamental change from the old to the new? This is what StratFlow has perfected over the last 20 years, and we call it the productivity platform. The flow room is the place where the heads of departments, middle managers, and selected employees get up-to-date visual information on what's happening to the operations as a whole. Color codes identify where attention should be focused and where help from support functions such as HR and maintenance is urgently required. Silos are connected, and employees and managers become able to coordinate from end to end to achieve superflow in a spirit of calmness. This creates systems-wide predictability, drastically reduces the number of critical indicators, and enables managers to manage proactively. It introduces stability to the production chain and reduces the cognitive load on managers and employees, frees up time, helps to focus the innovation processes in the areas where it will have the most immediate returns. And in this manner, agility increases too. So I hope the corrected recommendations now make sense. By focusing and aligning departments around getting maximum performance from the bottleneck, we have dramatically simplified what needs to be done. We definitely do not want to optimize the parts. We want to optimize the overall flow. This slide summarizes what we do as phase 1 and 2. And you see again the increase in production and improved stability, freeing up managerial span of attention, increasing employee engagement, and making operations safer. Jeff Sutherland, the author of Scrum, claims that the speed of work in individual programmers varies by a factor of 10 from the best to the worst. In teams, the variation between the slowest and fastest differs by a factor of 2,000. Getting teams to work together is much more important than trying to obtain the most skilled workers in every position. The ability to get the team to work together towards the same goal is where the productivity platform delivers the most value. So thank you very much. I hope this was interesting.